Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
But there's like a contradiction here of there's this pathetic military power that also poses a threat to NATO to the point where it's going to invade NATO, which is why we need Ukraine to join NATO, because that's the way you stop them from invading. Well, so either they're military, like they're so good at fighting now, like, you know.
He's such a, this is why I hate, that one guy did, sorry, because they're all conservatives. Lactoid is not a good faith argumentation person. I don't even want to say he's an idiot, because the way that he constructs these points is that he can't be stupid. He must be intentionally doing mental gymnastics here to just make the most ridiculous arguments in the world. Like, when people say that Russia is not a huge issue, what they mean is that if the United States were to directly confront Russia, one, we would win, and two, that Russia should have been much more successful in Ukraine. Okay, so far so good. When people say that Russia could be a threat to the rest of NATO, there's no contradiction there between, well, you said that Russia, wasn't good enough to take over Ukraine and wasn't good enough to fight the United States. So then how is it a threat to NATO if they invade Poland? Because the implication is that the United States will abandon NATO. That's the obvious implication, right? Because all the arguments that we've given for not helping Ukraine would also probably apply to Poland or any NATO country, right? World War III, fear of nukes. That's the argument. But I don't even know why I'm explaining this. Obviously, that's what the argument is. But Lactoid has no desire whatsoever. None of these mega debater guys have any desire whatsoever to engage with any actual argument or in good faith with any of these things. They just say the most retarded as possible in order to get airtime on panels.
They got with the finish that they're able to defeat NATO, in which case Ukraine joining NATO doesn't do anything for them since they have these plans anyway.
I got what you're saying. Let me explain. So first of all, they aren't extraordinary well in the fighting. As you can see, they cannot really move to get their aims. But they're also severely underprepared and very faulty at the beginning of the invasion. Kind of similar thing that happened with Chechnya. I don't know how much you know about that conflict. But first Chechen war, they basically lost. They lost insane amount of equipment, insane amount of people. They couldn't accomplish any of their aims. So what they did is that they got a ceasefire deal, a peace, as Russians do. And in 4 year time, they attacked again, much better prepared, knowing the strong points and the weak points of their enemy, and they succeeded second time. So this is what we are trying to avoid with aura as much as we can in Ukraine. Which about the NATO thing is that if you listen to
again, the problem with bad faith debaters, especially people like Lactoid, this is a waste of time. Like Anna explaining it, this is a waste of everybody's time. Like everybody knows this. Everybody should know. This is very obvious, right? Like why? Like it's very obvious what's being said. Why the f are we even having to explain this? This is stupid.
Russian people, for example, the Russian officials, what they say, they will tell you. They say that what they need from Ukraine is human resource. What they need from Ukraine is resource to mobilize, because most of the common Russian practices is to not mobilize people from Moscow, from St. Petersburg, but mobilize people from the poor, like marginalized parts of the country, like Asia parts, people that regular Russians really don't care about dying. So that's kind of what they do. They want to use us as a resource, which much like Germans, for example, used Slovaks when they occupied Czechoslovakia to then invade Poland. And this is like a very common strategy. We have a lot of people. We have a big country, not compared to you, but compared to many other European countries in terms of the population. We have massive amounts of weapons now. We also have massive amount of experience as well. So yeah, they are mobilized. Most people from Donbass, like I recently just talked with my very close friend from Donbass, soldier who's at the front currently, and he said like there's like no man in Donbass at this point, because most of them Russia mobilizes and throws at us, right? So this is just a thing they do strategically. They also can use Moldova, they can use Armenia, Belarus, countries that are not currently in NATO, Georgia, countries that they already have precedents of invading and annexing territories. And after that, with all of that, they have a much, much, much better strategic position to attack, let's say, Baltic.
Okay, just real quick.
I would like to respond to this.
I understand. Real quick for housekeeping. I will get to super chats at the top of the hour.
Andrew probably wants to say something.
Yeah, and Andrew does want to say something.
I would like to respond to that though, real quick. I think there's again another problem here when we're playing up all the men and like manpower issues and material loss that Russia's experiencing, and then also insinuating that they have this goal where they're going to use the occupied territories like Crimea and then use them in order to be able to conquer NATO. I think it's ridiculous. I think that Russia.
See, like I hate this. This is so boring. This is why there are no like real conversations anymore in politics because of people like this, right? Like there's never going to be an actual substantive debate. I almost want to just like argue the pro-Russian side because I could do it better than this. There is no actual interesting debate on, should Russia expand, in the modern era? Do they have like a higher, like does Russia have some kind of moral authority over Europe or some moral authority to expand their territory or to push for like a multipolar world or something like that? I guess I feel like maybe, no, I was gonna say even Hinkle or Haas might be able to have that discussion, but it's not. It's just like I don't know what you mean. Isn't a contradiction because you say weak and you're strong at the same time. It's just like the most knuckle dragging, dipshitted arguments in the world to waste everybody's time.
Even if they had all of Ukraine, which they're not going to get, but even if they had all of Ukraine, aren't going to touch NATO. There's very specific reasons why they're not going to touch NATO. The reason why this rhetoric is being played up is because it's trying to secure Western funding for Ukraine, right? And one of the ways you can get Western people, one of the ways you can get Westerners to like fork over money is if you make them feel afraid. Next, the Russians are coming for you, but the reality is they're not. They're not going to be going for any NATO country.
Except for the bombings, the arson attacks, and the railroads are blowing up, the assassinations, and the attempts to manipulate our democracies and bind a politician. Except for all that, they're not doing anything.
Andrew.
They do that.
They mean invasion. They just did invasion 3 years ago.
Oh, listen to Warwick. Okay. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're all in. You've been hearing. You're caught up with the conversation.
Yep.
Go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Not much has changed in the opposition argument for the past 3 years. It's like just rehashing the same arguments over and over again, which is just like war is bad. People dying is bad, but then they don't actually admit to the point of like, yeah, it's such a child's take. It's like literally like a level 1 tutorial.
Yeah, what a childish thing to think.
Yeah, it is, because it's devoid of the nuance. It's devoid of the facts of what's actually happening within Ukraine. So when you minimalize Ukraine and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, just war is bad and people are dying is bad. It does nothing to the people that are actually suffering and dying at the hands of the Russian war machine. And especially when you're not even arguing for security guarantees for Ukraine, so that will stop in the future. You're doing nothing for that. It's a nothing argument. Anyways, Russia's military power. Their military power adapts over time, right? They learn over time and they get better as time goes on. So it's not a problem. It's not an issue right now. By the way, I'm a 10-year Army veteran. Shout out to Wick. I know you're a veteran too. 88 Mike Motor Transport Operator. Was deployed to the Middle East for 9 months in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. So I can speak a little bit on military stuff, but that's not really what we're focused on, because Russia fights with information. They fight informational warfare. Hello, they just gave millions of dollars to tenant media, which just disseminated lies to Trump supporters and MAGA media to lie about what's happening within Ukraine. That just happened. Like, we just found that out last year. Russia is destabilizing Western countries from within. We're fighting ourselves. Russia doesn't have to even bring military equipment to NATO countries. When we're going to defeat each other, and then Russia's going to do the fucking dance right over our countries immediately afterwards. Okay, that is the actual fear. So it's a future issue in terms of military and like the Russian military coming across the border to kill people. But they're actively working against that right now. They're actively working to further that future thing that we're afraid of, actually, because it is a legitimate fear to have. Weird, because they've only done it throughout my entire lifetime. Twice in Chechnya, Georgia, Ukraine twice. They have troops in Moldova. This is just a constant
Syria,
problem. But for some reason, the people that stand up and support Ukraine are like, hey, this is wrong. Russia's consistent invasions need to end. Oh, war bad. Hey, Ukraine, stop defending yourself. Hey, how about...
Like, let's go back 15 years to Lactoid. Yeah, okay, fine. They're invading Georgia. That's Eurasia. You really think that they're going to go from invading Georgia to invading a European country? Ukraine is its own since 91. Come on, seriously? Like, it's Georgia. Who the f cares? Most people don't even know where Georgia is, right? You would make the exact same arguments 15, 20 years ago about them going to Ukraine after Georgia. I'm sure they will, right? Like, it's the same shit. It's so stupid.
But if you ever get attacked by someone, I'm going to have a third person show up and tell them, hey, stop defending yourself. Stop defending yourself. Allow that person to attack you. If you defend yourself, you're just going to further the attacks. You're just going to make the fighting happen, and people are just going to throw fists at each other the whole time. It's like the war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine is not a bar fight. It is not something where you're having a nuance outside the bar, and or you're having a nuisance outside of the bar, and you just need it to go away because it's inhibiting your business. It's inhibiting your place of business. That's not what this is. Russia is trying to absolutely eliminate the entire Ukrainian identity. They're doing it. They're destroying churches. They're destroying their cultural sites. They're destroying their history. They're trying to remove their language, actually, counter to the Russian propaganda of like the Ukrainians are trying to remove the Russian name. Well, I went to Kharkiv, which is where Anna lives. I was like, what is this? This is not Ukrainian. What is this? Oh, it's Russian. I'm like, oh, weird. I thought that the Russian language was removed. Why are all of these signs in Russian? Why do I actually have to install Russian language on my phone to walk around Kharkiv in East Ukraine? It is like,
what do you think the incentive is to be bad faith regarding Ukraine for smaller content creators like Lactoid? Because you're a part of the MAGA cult, and you have to be with them on every single point. You can't admit fault or admit anything anyway. Remember, part of what they have is similar to like a divine authority from Donald Trump, who's like almost this godlike figure in terms of his ability to dictate policy, you know, to the cult. And if he's wrong about anything, like, let me put it this way, okay? Imagine trying to debate somebody that one of the 10 commandments is incorrect. Would never happen. And they would never think of it as like, well, okay, fine. Maybe one of the commandments is wrong. Like, that's not possible. Right? It's an all or nothing thing for a lot of these people. And if you're part of the mega cult, it has to all be there. And there can't be any part that's incorrect, because if it's wrong on one thing, then who the f knows what else you could be wrong about? And the mode of argumentation for everything is basically the same. It's Donald Trump says some retarded shit. We got to go along with it no matter what. And it's stupid.
It's like night and day. Every argument has already been rehashed. There is nothing new that you can say. It is just redoing the same thing over and over and over again, and then hoping that like we don't know what we're talking about, or like oh, you have a new point this time. Hey, have we told you to make peace? Hey, in my heart, I just think peace is good. You know what? Peace is good, but it would be better if there were security guarantees that Ukraine didn't have to look over their shoulder and worry about Russia continuing constant invasions, because we don't actually have solid.
Or if these fuckers want to keep like bringing up examples or history or whatever the f else, then just say like, okay, fine. You guys get mad because we say that there's like Germany and peacemen all the time. What's the difference? Tell us, what is the difference right now, okay, between what Russia is doing and the appeasement, okay, that was offered to Germany prior to the full outbreak of World War II? What's the difference between that and what's going on now? Just like tell us, like what would make this difference in kind such that it's no longer an apt comparison?
Solid security guarantees. That is why Ukraine joining NATO is the actual security guarantee, because of what NATO can provide. Also, Anna brought up the training that Ukraine provides. It is called Joint Analysis Training Education Center. It is called JTAC. It is in NATO, and we directly get information about drone warfare and what the Russians are doing on the front lines. Everything that they're doing, Ukraine is giving that back to NATO countries. So we're directly learning. I'm filibustering? I'm sorry.
You've been talking for a while, dude.
Yeah, he hasn't been here. He can talk.
I know,
I'm just
like
talking.
You can't account for everything.
That's okay. I get it. You don't have a point. You don't have anything to say. You're just going to say war is bad.
No, I'd like to respond. You're just continuing to talk.
Okay, respond. Let's get it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's various things that you said in there. You know, one of them is like that I have to harp on again is like, yeah, I'm against war and killing. I don't know why that's such a bad thing. But this whole thing about Russia being prone to invasions and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, isn't that equally true for the United States?
Isn't that equally true for the United States? Isn't that equally true for the United States of America, though?
That's a rehashed argument also, but it doesn't seem that anybody can really disprove that point. There's no country in the world which is more prone to invading and killing than the U.S.
Really?
So, you know, I mean, this whole assumption that we have to fight Russia at every turn and blah, 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 because they're never going to stop invading. Well, if you go by that logic, historical precedent, we're never going to stop invading.
Okay, then let's all come together right now, okay? Everyone on this panel can say, hold on. We all agree that we would condemn the United States then and say that the world should take action against the United States if we unlawfully or illegally invaded anybody, right? Yes? Okay, cool. Then we all agree. Then there's no contradiction, yeah?
So why shouldn't the Russians be paranoid?
Like, imagine some dude is like beating the shit out of you. He takes out a shotgun, all right? You're lying on the ground bleeding, and somebody comes in and you're like, please, God, for the love of God, please call the cops. And that person looks at you, and the guy with the shotgun, he gives it a good pump. And they both look at you and like, are you serious? Don't you know that the cops have murdered people before in cold blood without proper justification? You really think we would call the cops to help you when you yourself have seen cops kill people without justification? Like, what an absolutely ridiculous thing to request. What's wrong with you, idiot?
Nobody addressed any of Blackwood's points. This whole notion that Russia is gonna attack Europe and invade. Get the out of here. What an insane.
They're already attacking Europe. What do you think Ukraine is? What continent is that country?
Fucking thing to believe.
You have a question.
You really think Russia has the intention of
You really think they're going to invade their brother country? They're going to invade Ukraine? That's crazy. They never invade Ukraine. Invade Chechnya, invade Georgia, invade Moldova. There's no way
they'd invade. It's fucking insane. It's insane. You guys are fucking out of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Feelings.
A 3-year fucking war with nothing.
Okay, a little order in court.
Feelings.
A little order in court. A little order
Over a million fucking people
but I will.
Feelings.
Okay, I do.
Not yours, mine. Shut up.
What, me?
Not you.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Okay, I'm like, wait, I'm the moderator. I'm supposed to be talking. What are we doing? Okay.
Stop purchase signaling about my people dying.
I do want to ask a question though, because this is something that I've seen reports on very recently, where Trump has hemmed and hawed over whether he would honor a call for Article 5. So there is a very real question at play of would NATO membership.
Okay, here we go. Here comes the switch up. Now, Lactoid, who was just saying, okay, well, obviously they wouldn't attack NATO country. NATO would defend him. He's about to go into full Trump defense mode. I don't think we should defend NATO. He's about to switch up fully. Or he's going to say Trump didn't mean it. It's just a negotiating position. Which one is it going to be? Let's go.
Even protect Ukraine at this point, especially
please.
If NATO, or I'm sorry, America,
let Lactoid answer, please.
Their deal.
Dude.
Other than NATO, the question here is, other than NATO...
Can I please respond to that? Or Lactoid?
In a moment. We're going to go in order here. Let me ask my question. Other than NATO, what are some security guarantees, realistic security guarantees, that could be given to Ukraine, other than NATO, that would protect them? Anna, you want to start? I'll let you start. And
yes, I'll start real fast. Most people in Europe right now are considering the question. Finally, okay? We have been telling them for decades, but now they are considering it, that even if Russia, for example, attacks Baltics or Poland, then will United States or any other countries actually activate Article 5? Because you have to actually vote for that. You have to actually say, yes, we are going there. It's not just like it's an immediate thing. So especially Baltics and Poland and every other Finland, people who have been previously occupied by Russia or like Soviet Union or whatever, right? They are very, very concerned about that. And that seems to be ramping up their desire to invest in their own military and not depend so much on the United States, which for me, I think it's a good thing, honestly, to not depend on the United States as much, because at the end of the day, I mean, they can pass over any day of the week. And
in a sane world, what a great statement. Too bad we live in an insane world. YouTube chatter. In a sane world, the President of the United States suggesting that NATO would not be honored should be a crisis-level event in the Congress. Well, there's like 15 of these things that have happened so far, but yeah, in my world, that would be an impeachable statement. The fact that you would even, especially for a guy who says so much, well, I'm not going to negotiate in public. I'm not going to say that publicly. I don't want to hurt my negotiating positions. For you to even suggest publicly that you would undermine basically this foundational, pivotal military alliance that has ensured an unprecedented level of peace and tranquility for the most part worldwide, that you would even suggest that publicly? Why would you even say, even if that was your position, why the would you say that?
We should protect ourselves first and foremost, and they also should invest in us, but that's a whole other situation. And when it comes to this, and to what agreements would be good, NATO is shaky right now because most people actually in Europe are considering, well, will there be NATO without the United States if the United States, for example, drops off the face of the earth with Trump, right? So any other security guarantees, for example, maybe an alliance between countries who actually know what Russia is and what it does. For example, Finland, Baltics, Poland, Czechia, Slovakia. I don't care about that much. Fico can go fuck himself. But anyhow, point is that we really need to consider that that sort of alliance that doesn't maybe even involve Western countries. But the problem
I think they renamed themselves to Czechia or Chechia or something. I don't know. Fuck them.
that, of course, is that we don't have nuclear weapons because we have been stripped of them by our lovely allies over here. So the point is that France has nuclear weapons and UK has them. UK is not part of Europe anymore because they fucked up major. And now we have only France that is a nuclear power besides the US, which we no longer should count as an ally altogether. So in that sense, of course, any guarantees are good, but they have to be actually signed and actually mentioned, not assurances that we, trust me, bro, we will come for you if you're attacked. No, we need, if you're invaded, we will deploy troops. If you are invaded, we will produce, all the things you need, the arms, the things. We will really come through. We need those guarantees. We need guarantees that if our sovereignty is breached again, then it will be considered by people like fully actually helping us out, because we can sacrifice parts of our land, but only if there's something for it in us. That's it, pretty much.
Yeah, I want to give the mic to I know Lactoid wanted in, and I know Non-Smoker wanted in. I want to give it to Dylan because he's chomping at the bit too, right? And I see you all, right? I love the energy. I love the energy, but we do have to go.
Boy, here we go.
Lactoid.
Sure. In terms of like what sort of security, this is like going to be the hardest question, because Russia's already said that NATO is a red line. Like they're not going to accept NATO membership. And
so Russia gets to dictate to the United States, which I guess is now a bitch country, because Russia said it. We can't do it. Thank you, cuck.
They're not going to accept anything that's going to be on par with NATO membership. They're not going to accept anything that would lead to the kind of response that people are looking for if there's some kind of war again in the future. And that's difficult, right? Because again, Ukraine's in the back foot, the Russians are advancing, and there's I think real question of, well, eventually, if they keep going, and let's say the gains start to shift to be more exponential, like we saw in Vietnam, Afghanistan, or Syria, or something along those lines, perhaps they could even get more in terms of some kind of arrangements or agreements with Ukraine. The other question is, when we're looking at this from in terms of what Russia wants, I think it makes perfect sense why they would insist that Ukraine doesn't join NATO. I mean, we can imagine some kind of comparable situation for the U.S., right? Let's say that in Canada there was.
Let's say that China. It's like the same. This is 3 years of these talking points. Anna's a sociopath. She's either a secret U.S. agent or just is disconnected somehow. I could not imagine listening to maggots talk about my country being an American who's not at war. Drives me fucking insane. I cannot imagine being a Ukrainian citizen, listening to some rotten, spoiled American kid talking about just this whole scenario this way, just repeating verbatim Kremlin propaganda points. I would kill myself if I had to sit and listen to this. Holy shit. I would not be able to do it. Oh my God.
An illegal coup in which the duly elected president was
illegal coup. I'm starting to think that these influencers that say they talk to Trump once a week aren't lying. I think they all have weekly meetings, which would explain how they're. Well, Charlie Kirk probably does. I don't think he would lie about it.
It makes perfect sense why they would insist that Ukraine doesn't join NATO. I mean, we can imagine some kind of comparable situation for the U.S., right? Let's say that in Canada there was an illegal coup in which the president.
I want to hear him like this. Okay, so let's say in Canada there was a coup. Okay. Let's say it does happen. We're going to invade Canada and steal their territory. Please, I want to hear him talk through this. Please don't interrupt him. I so want to hear this example. Okay, go ahead.
Duly elected president was overthrown and replaced with a pro-Russian candidate.
Okay.
And the pro-Russian candidate made moves to bring in Russia as a military ally.
None of that was happening, though. What are you talking about? That analogy doesn't even fit. It's not like Russia went into Crimea. Wasn't it like the day after Yanukovych fled? Or did it take some days? It's a long time ago. But nobody was bringing in the U.S. military or anything like that. What are you talking after Euromaidan?
Quickly, the U.S. is going to launch an invasion. I mean, we were willing to end.
He's going to bring up. Is he about to bring up the Cuban Missile Crisis? Don't do it.
World in nuclear Armageddon and Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh my God. It's like every dog Kremlin propaganda talking point. It's all of them for 3 years, and all of these have been knocked down over and over and over and over and over again. Every single one.
We invaded Cuba the year before in the Bay of Pigs, so it is absolutely within a great power, regional powers.
We invaded Cuba the year before in the Bay of Pigs. No, we didn't. We abandoned Cuba the year before. That was not an invasion. That was an aborted invasion. What?
To maintain a sort of sphere or power balance in the area, and this is one of the reasons I think why Russia will not accept NATO membership of Ukraine. And another thing they won't accept is that they're not going to accept when it comes to Crimea, which is again what Zelensky's been talking about in the past, which is just insane. They're not going to accept a bunch of people in Crimea who don't want to be part of Ukraine all of a sudden having to go and join Ukraine. They're just not going to accept it.
Why? Who cares? What do you mean? Since when do citizens have a right to dictate to a country its borders, absent an actual or something happening, right? For Bosnia and the Serbs and all that. But what are we talking about here? You don't have a right to dictate that to another country. Oh, well, these people don't want to be part of the country. Okay, well, I'm going to go and invade and help those people then not be a part of that country. What? In what world does this make sense?
How do you know? How do you know they don't want to be part of Crimea? Tell me right now.
Every poll.
Because they did a poll once after they were taken over, and it was 96%.
Don't let him pivot away. He never answered the question.
We have
He never answered. The question was, what security guarantees can we give Ukraine? He's like, well, we can't do this, we can't do that.
I didn't
give an answer. Your answer is no security guarantee. Okay, but this is, you said when you open
And
it.
then keep in mind, okay, people like Lactoid, I'm sure, we can go back and find examples. I'm sure I haven't even seen it, but I know he did it, right? These people were guzzling buckets of Trump negotiator cum. He's the master negotiator. He negotiates so well. He's the best negotiator ever. Oh, cool. Okay, well, what are we going to do for Ukraine? Well, we can't do anything because Russia's they're so big and brave. They're so big and strong. We can't literally do a single thing. It's like, where the is the master negotiator then? What are we negotiating? What?
That Trump was serious. This was serious negotiation. That they're being serious in their negotiating. And then he comes out here with a 24-hour peace deal. Was never serious. You come forward. We're waiting for a serious proposal, and you have none.
True.
No. There is a serious proposal for peace. What I'm saying is that
security guarantees.
No.
Then it isn't peace. Then you don't want peace. You're lying. Without security guarantees, there is no peace. There will never be peace without security guarantees. Whoever tells you that is a fucking liar who doesn't care about Ukraine. They just want to hold a piece of paper, be Never Chamberlain, say, hey, look at me, I'm such a peacemaker. Fuck you. You don't care.
Exactly.
Lactoid quickly, and then I'll let them respond. So Lactoid, you got to
even ceasefire.
Just answer the question. What security guarantee? That was Wick's question.
None. He didn't answer. He said none.
Negotiate the kind of security guarantees that you're looking for.
None.
Like an actual serious deterrent.
Okay, then you don't have peace.
In the exact same way that you would never get the U.S. to accept some kind of serious security guarantees for Canada or for
Canada doesn't need a security guarantee because the United States hasn't been and is not invading Canada or invading Mexico. What is the security guarantee? Their security guarantees are the part of NATO. I mean, what do you mean? What are we talking about? Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. Excuse me. Delete the VOD today. My bad, because that might age really poorly. Who the knows? That might age really poorly. Sorry, Canadians. Sorry, Mexicans. I don't know, actually. Who knows?
Mexico. It simply isn't going to happen. You have plenty of examples throughout history where, yes, you have ceasefires broken, you have wars come up again. But just like you said, apparently if NATO is under threat, then these security guarantees also aren't perfect. There's no way that you can ever.
But you want the best thing you can get. You don't even want to try.
It has to be perfect.
Sure, we can try. When the Russians have set a red line here, what do you want to do?
Let's keep winning.
Oh my God.
Roll over. Have a jelly spine.
And then 1 million dead later, eventually.
You wait till you have terms that will stop war. You don't subjugate yourself.
Okay. I'm going to give it to Dylan. You're up next. Dylan, it's your turn, right? Dylan, now is your turn. You can respond.
It's so weird.
Look, not smoke. I see you too.
See, it's such un-American sentiments on a panel full of so many Americans. Okay, look. It's one thing to be like, if we can negotiate with the Russians to avoid a war and avoid all these deaths at the start and have all that, that'd be great. But to be clear, if there was no NATO, if there was no United States, if there was none of these alliances, Russia would still invade Ukraine. I firmly believe this. The Russians have described ideologically, they believe Ukraine's part of their empire. They think it's an extension of the Ruski Mir. That's the essays Putin has written. These are the speeches he has given. And you can cite whoever the fuck you want about NATO expansion, this NATO expansion, that. At the end of the day, if NATO wasn't there, it would just make this job easier. If anything, if there was no NATO, if there was no America, if it was just Ukraine isolated by itself, no Finland to back them up, no Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, no Eastern Europeans, divide and conquer, they would be more excited to invade. They would feel no compulsion to ever come to the table whatsoever, because it would just be like the Tuvans. It would just be like the Chechens. It would just be another sad chapter in history where there's an end to the book of the Ukrainian story. And so when we talk about 1 million deaths later, the question is, do you surrender, let them kill people anyway, line up the people who believed in Ukrainian civil society, who believed in Ukrainian democracy, who were fighting against anti-corruption efforts, who didn't want a Yanukovych type figure to come back and try to re-embed the type of corruption that they've desperately been trying to pull out, and they're still trying to pull out from their own government. They were never going to accept that. And so when you say, 1 million deaths later, it comes off as so hollow, you don't really care, because how do you avoid it? Because we get to the hard questions, and this is the problem with Trump. And this is the problem when you say, Trump had a serious proposal to end war. No, he didn't. He said 24 hours, 24 hours, 24 hours. That's all he said, just like healthcare. Concept of a plan.
Trump hasn't even been able to get to Hamas. He hasn't been able to make Hamas stop fighting. He hasn't been able to get a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. That's like a defeated enemy already. What the
concept of a plan?
He seems serious to end the war. I agree.
No, he's not serious. He's not serious.
I agree the 24 hours thing is obviously ridiculous. It's ridiculous hyperbole.
But what's serious?
I love that. Did you hear that? It was hyperbolic. Oh, it was just hyperbole. Where's the Drake laptop gif in my chat? He was being hyperbolic. Oh, at least we moved on from negotiating tactic to just hyperbole.
I meant two things. When I said,
just say you don't care, please. Just say you don't give a fuck, and that's it.
Yes,
I do.
True.
I want less.
No, he's gonna say, I do give a fuck. I want less Ukrainians to stop dying. I just want her to stop going to the meat grinder. I do care. You don't care about the Ukrainians dying. You're the one who doesn't care. Yes, you don't care.
I wanted a ceasefire in Gaza, despite the fact that, yes, that ceasefire has been broken a few times, and there was no permanent security guarantees that resulted. But I think it's a good thing when, the bombs stop dropping, and we just, come together to try to work out some kind of solution. And when this expectation, hold on a second, this expectation that the security guarantees that apparently, because Russia poses a threat to NATO are questionable already, these security guarantees that are being insisted on are what the winning Russians right now have said they will not accept. So you have a couple of winning Russians.
Well, that's the winning Russians. That's true. But isn't that the point of negotiating? Isn't that why we negotiate then? If they say they won't accept them now, Like, hello, United States, come help me negotiate against these guys. Okay, well, tell me what's up. Well, this is what they say they would accept. Okay, and then this is kind of what I want. So what can you do? Well, like, if that's what they say they would accept, I mean, that's what they say they would accept. Art of the deal. Art of the deal. Wait, so what are the terms for our negotiations? It's whatever Russia says they want. Art of the deal. Pure cinema. Pure art of the deal. Okay. So you just give them whatever they want. Art of the deal. Yes, that's correct. Okay.
So you have a couple paths ahead of you, right? You can either say, okay, we are not going to accept, we're just going to completely ignore this red line. And we're going to say, fuck it, we're not having peace. And then before you know it, like, yes, the Russians will continue. You're going to continue to have death and destruction. Or you can analyze what is Russia's goals here. Why did this war happen? All of this happened because that Yanukovych that you were talking about was unconstitutionally removed. That was a coup.
It was unconstitutional. Oh, where's the Drake computer meme again? It was Russia just wanted to defend rule of law in Ukraine. That's what the invasion was for. That's now the counter question for Dylan or Anna. Okay, they were worried about the unconstitutionality of the coup. Then why the did they go to Crimea instead of Kiev? Why did they go to Crimea? Did they get lost? Could they not find the Ukrainian capital? Why didn't they go to where it actually happened then? What?
It happened. I do it again. I wish I was the one to
You guys don't care about this.
Honestly, my problem is the CIA wasn't involved. That's my problem.
You two, Lactoid, stop, everyone. Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'll let him respond to you, Lactoid. We're gonna give it to Mercado, and let him have a chance. And then non-smoker is after Mercado. Mercado, respond.
I will.
Anna too.
I got you. So this is Russia's feelings, what Russia wants, and then if you would have let Lactoid continue, we would have got some more Russian narratives, and like we would have heard the real feelings.
True.
Because he was starting. He's like, oh, it was a coup. He's like, it was starting to come out there. So I actually kind of wanted. Okay. So it wasn't.
American Revolution was a coup.
So
even if it was a coup, who cares? You just grant the point. Say it was a coup. That's fine. Fine. Let's say fine. It was a coup. So if somebody coups somebody, the other country next to them can invade them and start stealing territory. Is that how we're gonna run the world from now on? Is that what we're gonna say is gonna happen? Anytime there's a coup, that means somebody else, your neighbor, can come in and just steal territory from you?
Yeah. Exactly. So,
who didn't?
I mean, it's just more of like Russia's feelings, what Russia wants, without actually holding them accountable, or giving Ukraine real security guarantees to prevent Russia from attacking them. Anyways, I'm going to send the rest of my time to Anna.
Oh,
before Lactoid.
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. But point is though that we are really this is just about the security guarantees is the reason why we care for them is because we are willing to sacrifice ourselves right now, but we are not willing to sacrifice people 10 years from now. This is Eastern Europe has been backstabbed by the West bajillion times, left to Nazis, to communists, to whatever right? We have been, we do not trust any security guarantees, and occupation is not peace. It's not the end of dying. It's the end of our nation. I prefer, as a Ukrainian, to be stricken with a drone right now than to live in Russia, which probably I won't be live any long time there because I'm on a list for people to be killed off. So that's not your decision. Your decision as an American people is to either support us or not. That's your decision to make, obviously, right? You voted for that. That's your decision. But it's not your decision to decide what we are supposed to do about our nation surviving or not. We do not accept surrender because surrender means occupation. And Russian occupation is torture, imprisonment, deportation, death, and rape. That's what it is. And we do not accept that. That's one thing. Second thing, the revolution is such a big enough point. I don't want to talk really about it. Millions of people participated in it. We hated that motherfucker because he didn't want to bring us towards the European Union, and he also didn't respect any right to protest. He made the dictatorship laws that prohibited, by the way, which your president right now is trying to do, the dictator laws to prohibit gatherings, to prohibit protests, to prohibit any sort of attempts of people to show their will. We were over it. We were over the oligarchs.
Did you follow the Constitution to remove him?
Say it again. I missed it.
Did you guys follow the Constitution when it came to removing him?
You fled.
Fled to where?
Russia.
Kharkiv and then Donetsk, and he was still in Donetsk at the time of the vote, right?
And?
Is that how it works now? A president leaves the capital city and then he's just gone?
Revolution, man.
Like if Trump goes in
He was fleeing the country.
This led to because this
led. It's totally fine.
Yeah, by the way, just to be clear, Ukrainian Constitution doesn't specify. Oh,
by the way,
you can ignore the
isn't it a jail cell? That's what he put him in a jail cell.
You can ignore the impeachment process. You can ignore the Constitution. You can disenfranchise millions of Crimeans. Hold on.
Well, I think didn't they go through the impeachment process anyway after he fled? I could be wrong. I don't remember. Look it up.
The franchise millions of Koreans and people in Donbass who voted for him in a democratic election in 2010.
Oh my God. They did vote for him.
They voted for him. The 2010. Oh, yapping. Your ally comes in here and yaps for how long? I can't respond to
my allies. We're in the trenches here.
Yeah. So just to be clear here, if I can be clear here for a second, okay?
Usually
so Yanukovych won the election in 2010. That election was monitored by multiple international observers. He was the.
Why are you even saying this? Nobody is doubting that he legitimately won that election. Why are we even arguing this point right now? Hello? Okay.
President. Yes, here's the point. Here's the point. You guys ignored your constitution, disenfranchised millions of people in Crimea and in the Donbass. When you illegally, hold on,
you can't let the fucking guy talk. Holy shit!
They can't do it.
Hold on, I can't.
They can't. They're just gonna like
Once Lactoid finishes, I will let you all respond, but you do have to let him finish.
Thank you.
I am good at listening to this retardation.
No, I know they just say, oh, that's Russian propaganda instead of actually.
It is. It's dumb, silly nonsense.
You won't even let him make a point.
Mute us so we can finish individually because I won't be able to stop laughing.
Okay. So all of this stuff comes from Western sources. This idea of, well, it's just Russian propaganda. Notice every time they say that, it's because they don't want to actually engage in the veracity of the point. It's a non sequitur. It's entirely irrelevant to the point. In this situation, it was an illegal coup that disenfranchised millions of people in Crimea, in the Donbass. The 2014 coup, you can look it up. This was 100%. What was the underlying cause? Was 100% the underlying cause of what led to Crimea, with what led to the war in the Donbass, with what led to Ukraine.
Well, I like the fact that it is, but I like the fact that he's honest. Then, okay, so what led to the Russian invasion was a preference in leadership. Right? It was a preference in leadership. That's what led to this invasion. They didn't like the fact that we'll say he got ousted, sure, but at least then f off with the NATO expansion argument. F off with this bullshit about security or political realism or whatever. They just wanted to be able to influence or control the Ukrainian market, the Ukrainian economy. And when their guy, who is going to go against the will of the people, because the understanding was that Ukraine was going to do what they needed to enter the European Union's, or to become a bilateral trading partner with the European Union. And he wanted to leave and instead join the customs union from Russia instead. There were huge protests, and one thing led to another. People got shot and killed, people got mad, and eventually he fled and was ousted. And they voted to impeach him, and they did it, he was gone. But at least we're off of the bullshit NATO expansion talking point then, right? Can we just...
Operation in the Donbass, in which they fired unguided rockets at civilian population centers in the Donbass.
Oh, we've even got more. We've even got more Kremlin talking points. I haven't heard this one in a long time. He's got like the rerun Kremlin talking points. One of the bullshit arguments that Ruskies, I don't even know. No, yeah, they would do this one, was the idea that the reason why they had to invade the Donbass was because Ukraine and ethnic Ukrainians were civilians who were just innocent civilians in Donetsk and Luhansk. They were these poor innocent civilians, and Ukraine was just rockets at them and murdering them all because they were ethnic Russians, because I hated them so much, and it was Azov and Nazi who were doing it. Hold on one second.
Never happened. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. According to Amnesty, you guys did. And then 2021.
You said your thing.
I did not say my thing yet. I'm almost there.
It was bullshit. I was there.
I'm almost there. I know.
You're so insecure about your fucking argument.
It's 3 versus 2. They have more talking time. Definitely Mercado now. And I can't even fucking finish. So
honestly, I'm not even that radical on my Don, and you're making Lactoid believable to me because you guys won't shut the fuck up and let finishes.
But if you're also interrupting Lactoid, I want to be clear. I'll enjoy interrupting Lactoid. Just let her play Lactoid.
Well, to be fair, Anna's telling me to shut up in the middle of my point.
Yeah.
And so this is the context here. This wasn't like this invasion fell out of the sky. It's not like Russia's going to invade NATO because of this. It's not like, well, if there's going to invade us again, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to happen. There's no possible way to avoid this. No, there are like that have happened since 2014 that explain Russia's actions. If we want peace, then we should be acknowledging those realities. Thank you.
Okay, you highly acknowledge it, man. Nothing he said. Nothing he said happened. We never killed any population.
I'll follow you all the sources. I'll send you all the sources you want.
Okay, well, now you got Anna.
Anna's sources.
Yes.
No, the audience. Okay, you want any of this?
Whoa, this is cool, but we cover the Balatro subreddit drama. There's Balatro subreddit drama. Can you explain the Donbass thing? The Russian military has been supporting, first covertly and then overtly, basically operatives in the Donbass to fight a war against Ukraine. They did the same thing in Georgia, basically, the same plan. You send in weapons to support rebels there who are fighting an authentic war, and then eventually it gets out of hand, and ethnic Russians or Georgians, innocent people, or Ukrainians are getting killed and by the evil government. So then Russia has to send in peacekeeping troops in order to keep the peace because of how evil and violent the regime is, and then eventually it's got to be a full-scale invasion because there are just so many innocent people dying. There was a war that was being fought in the Donbass, but it was being funded on one side by Russia, sending in, this is like, no, I guess the little green men thing. I think that started in Crimea, but it was Russian-backed people. That's where that one Ukrainian, was it a Ukrainian civil or a commercial airline got shot down by a launch pad that was being operated by Russian soldiers from Ukraine. Like it's just a bullshit talking point. It wasn't that Ukraine was just launching rockets or mortars into civilian homes to kill civilians because they were evil and hated ethnic Russians. It was a legitimate war that Russia was instigating in the Donbass.
Hold on, I don't understand, but Anna's got to respond. Go ahead.
Not too weak. Yeah. I love it. Anyhow, point is that 30,000 civilians were killed in Donbass. Only happened after Russian invasion of Donbass and annexation of Crimea. In Crimea, maybe they wanted to be part of Russia. Perhaps we never know, because the referendum was made under the guns of Russians after the annexation and not recognized by any reputable organization, by any country except for Russia. Okay, so that's not the way for us to know. By the way, in 1991, the Crimea voted to be independent, to be part of Ukraine. So and so did Donbass and all the other parts of Ukraine. So that's one thing. Second thing. Yes, people voted for Yanukovych in my part of the country as well, like Eastern Europe, Kharkiv, for example. They did vote for Yanukovych. That's not disputed. Nobody disputes that. Yanukovych wasn't, however, at the time of elections, saying that he will turn us away from European Union. That was never brought up. Second thing, we were like on the course to remove the trade deal with Russia and to join towards the European Union. That's one thing. Second thing, he wasn't making dictator laws when he was elected. And yes, he was a Russia-friendly candidate, and a lot of Eastern Ukrainians voted for him because simply of the trade relations. So a lot of us worked in Russia. We had like some sort of connections with Russia, trade with Russia, all sorts of things. So a lot of people really wanted to maintain that relationship, whereas the Western Ukraine had a lot of trade and economic relations with Poland, for example. That's something you don't know because you don't know shit. So it doesn't matter really. So at the end of the day, that's what happened. And Yanukovych betrayed us. He changed course, and we were on our way to basically become Belarus, and the elections will be cancelled altogether. You are lucky in your country to not suffer from that sort of shit. Unfortunately for us, we live in Eastern Europe, so we know where.
Careful, Anna. You're actually incorrect there, because our 2020 election was stolen by the evil Democrats. I'm sure Lactoid doesn't believe in the results of the 2020 election. So
oligarchs come to power and try to, become dictators. We can block that. We have lived under dictators for a long time. So yeah, we had a revolution that millions of people participated in. It was a conflict. You're not wrong. Like there was like a huge divide between the people. Some people supported it. Some people did it. That's true. It's not a dispute. Everyone agrees with that. There was like 40, 60 dispute, like 55 maybe even dispute between people. It was a pretty divisive time, and most people participated in it, including myself. Obviously, wanted to be part of the Western part. And I am from the East. I'm from Kharkiv. I spoke Russian my whole life. My mom is Russian, so whatever, right? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So it really wasn't a coup. It was a revolution where our president used violent force against us, using their coup, special forces, right, to beat the out of the protesters, to kill them, and also to prohibit any sort of protests. So we didn't like that, and it turned out to be 3 months strong revolution. And that's pretty much it. And you can shut the fuck up because you are just a bot.
Hold on. We do it. Let me respond. Has to go.
I did a lot of shit that was just said.
I understand.
One sentence. I didn't address half of it.
No, I didn't cut you off in the middle and start telling you to shut up, okay? I actually let you finish. Yeah, I did. And notice how you did the thing that happens where it's like, oh, you're just a Russian bot, you're just etc. When all the shit is easily accessible on Wikipedia.
She did say that at the end. Oh, this is like a super good debate strategy. This is like the debate out. There's got to be a name for this. Maybe we could call it like the debate life raft. But basically, somebody buries you in factual arguments, but then at the end they're like, and this is why you're a idiot. And after all of the factual arguments, like, oh, see how it is? All you have are ad homs. You're just going to talk shit. You're just going to call me a shit. You're going to call me a idiot. Really? And there you go. And that's what I mean when I say these guys can't debate. These guys can't respond to anything. Like, she just like laid out like 2 minutes of fucking argumentation. And then she's like, oh, you're a bot. Oh, really? You're just going to be a bot?
On Western sources, you find all this shit. Wait. Apparently, I don't know shit. But for those of you in the audience, you should look up Ukrainian Constitution Article 108 specifies specifically how the president can be removed. The Euromaidan insurrectionists did not follow that process whatsoever.
Here's a question. By the way, I'm sorry, I can't. Hold on.
This is crazy.
Hold on. I know they can't. Like I just let her ramble, and now I'm responding.
You it's a lie. You know it's a lie. Zero values.
As soon as he's done, Dylan, you tear him into him.
And by the way, when you go, Dylan, I want you to specify exactly what I said was a lie. Okay? And audience, watch, see if you can do it. So when it comes to the Euromaidan insurrection, right? First of all, the last poll that we have prior to Yanukovych being removed was in January of 2014. 45% of Ukrainians were in favor of Euromaidan. 48% were opposed. The overall movement did not have majority support in all of Ukraine. It had majority support in Kiev and the west of Ukraine. And by the way, Article 1.
The situation changed quite a bit though when there was a name for these. I don't want to call it like the Big Ten, but I think Hitler did the same shit. No, not to say everything's Hitler, but like for whatever reason, every single time, I guess it's like when a guy or girl feels like they're losing their partner and they become insanely clingy, and then it drives the person away even more. Sometimes when like fascists are in democratic systems and they're like, the people aren't listening to me, I'm losing control. Oh, I'm gonna pass the most oppressive, anti-free speech, anti-demonstration laws ever, and it'll make everybody chill and go the home, and we'll be good. And I'm pretty sure Yanukovych tried that before he got. Then this when things escalated even more, and they got super not good.
108 and Article 111 specifies what you need to do to have an impeachment, and they didn't follow that process whatsoever.
Yeah, we
and
did.
So and last point, the Berkut or whatever that we're talking about. Keep in mind, 13 Berkut were killed from the insurrectionists. Buildings were occupied before any buildings were occupied by people with with petrol bombs and rifles. petrol bombs and sticks and rifles. And if we want to say, well, if the police shoot people attacking government buildings, then all of a sudden that invalidates the government. Well, what about Ashley Babbitt? Then I guess Bidens don't like women anymore. That's not how that works. That's not how constitutions work. How constitutions work, if you actually care about constitutions, if you actually care about the rule of law, you have to follow constitutions. All of this preceded directly.
Didn't you support the guys who wanted to terminate the Constitution?
All of this directly preceded Russian involvement when it came to Crimea and the Donbass.
Remove a dictator. We removed him. What's your point? Nobody argues with you. You're correct.
Okay, if you're going to break the law, if you're going to break your own constitution, don't act Pikachu face when Crimea wants to leave.
Dylan?
No, when they want to leave, it's nobody's acting Pikachu face. It's about Russian invasion. God, this guy's such a slimy, disgusting. Please, Lord God, please. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I didn't say anything like that.
He didn't want to leave.
They want to leave. The UN told them they wanted to leave.
Okay, gang,
the UN data too. The most recent UN data before the annexation, so basically it's high.
Yeah.
But have you seen the one directly after the annexation? 88%.
After the annexation,
oh my God! Really, bro?
Okay, you know what? Tell me when I can talk because I thought it was interrupting. You're scared.
Are you kidding me? You've been cutting me off every fucking time. Don't act victim. Shut the fuck up.
Dylan.
Okay, so
you shut the fuck up.
Lactoid is very un-American. That's what I would say Lactoid is. Because if your first thought is, hey, if Biden hired MS-13 gang members to go beat up protesters and try to provoke and then say, you know what, protesting's not allowed. You can't grow up and get in groups of 3 people. I don't care if I pulled out of this agreement in the middle of the night. I don't care if my security services wrapped screws and nails on flashbangs and threw it in the crowd. It doesn't matter if some people died. It doesn't matter if some kids were beaten. It doesn't matter if all that was publicized. Anything could be done because there was an election. So it doesn't matter if he does something illegal. It doesn't matter if Yanukovych does something unconstitutional. It doesn't matter if he murders his own people. It doesn't matter if he tries to get rid of civil society as a concept by trying to ban protesting. If Biden banned protesting in the United States after hiring MS-13 gang members to beat up protesters, Russia, you guys wouldn't be saying we need to get rid of Biden. Biden needs to be impeached. Biden needs to be removed, or we need to.